Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's issue of The Reluctant Free Agent. And I'm very excited to have Jennifer McDonald joining me here. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You are welcome. I have to comment that Jennifer and I did not do this intentionally, but I'm wearing red and she's in green, and it's December 16th. And I think we look like Christmas, even though we didn't plan this, but it's synchronicity. And I guess this will just mean that this is going to be a festive conversation in addition to talking about some difficult things. So welcome. It's great to have you
Thank
here.
you. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
So 2025 has been a weird year in a lot of fronts, and most particularly as we're talking about the job front. I was thinking back before you and I jumped on about how when my job was eliminated, I left my job at the last day of January. So it's been almost a full year. And on the positive side, I've met so many wonderful people through this process. And Jennifer, I know you and I connected on LinkedIn, and I think it was because I had seen some of your posts. I don't know when it was, whether it was the summer or this fall, related to a job search. And there was just something about your writing that really resonated with me. And I reached out to connect, and you accepted. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Well, not everyone accepts. So thank you. That makes me sound like everyone's turning me down. But, sometimes you ask someone and you never hear back.
Oh, yeah. No, I do.
Yeah. So, but thank you. And so I've been following you because of all of this. And so recently you had made a post about a recent change in your job, and you and I connected in person or virtually for the first time. And I'm glad that you're here talking today and sharing your experience. I think your experience is a little bit different from some of the others that I've talked to. And so I think this could be helpful for people as well who might not have felt like they had the exact same experience of someone like me whose job was eliminated, or someone who was a period of layoffs, that you have a slightly different story. So thank you for sharing it. And I'm going to start off by just asking if you could tell us a little bit about how you came to be in your position currently of looking for a job.
Yes, absolutely. And I am happy to do this. I'm excited to do this. I think that what has occurred with me probably happens more than we hear about. And hopefully people can take something from what I'm saying, feel a little bit validated. And also, if this happens to anyone in the future, they can kind of maybe do a little bit of what I'm trying to do. Not about to say that I'm perfect or I can give great advice or anything like that. So, but here's my story. All right. I was also laid off the last day of January in 2025.
I didn't realize that.
Yes, January 31st. Isn't that fun? Yeah, that was great. And so laid off, and I took some time for myself, as I think everyone should after a layoff. I took 2 weeks. I gave myself a countdown. That was it. It's 2 weeks. I cooked amazing family meals, made every dessert my family loved, and did all of that. And I think that's really important to reset. I also think it's important the day you're laid off to not make it about that. That's what happened that day. So I went and got my nails done. I mean, I think that when that happens, maybe make that day about something else than on what occurred that day. Cause it's not the end of the world, and you will get over this. But anyway, so I was laid off, took a couple weeks, and then I found a contract opportunity, which I was very, very grateful. I'm still with HeartFlow through the end of this year. And I can't say enough good things about that particular company and the contract position that they gave me. So, it's been a wonderful thing to have. But in the process of that, of course, I was also spending, I was only working a few hours for them. So all the other hours were spent looking for a job, right? And I got in the same trenches that I think everybody gets into. You read the stories on LinkedIn, you get frustrated for everybody else out there, right? And you're like, this is not fair and this is not right. And then you get nervous. I'll say this is what happened to me. I got nervous. And I'm still nervous. I see a lot of learning and development people out there, more than I would like to see. And I think it's for several reasons. I think it's the economy, and I also think it's because of AI, and I think it's because people don't understand what L&D always does, or training. I mean, we have a lot of talent development. We have a lot of different names out there that sometimes always cover the same ground. So, but I was seeing more and more of my fellow comrades, if you will, laid off. And so that was nerve-wracking. So I went through several interviews, several projects, right? Case studies, things like that, starting to get real tired of that process, right? The 7-step interview process, which I think is kind of overkill. And so I then went and I did finally get picked up by an organization, and the interview started like in June, and there was a red flag, but I kept going. And then another interview and a case study and an assignment, all of that in July. And then another red flag. And then another interview and and then a final interview and some more red flags, right? And then they called me in September and said, "Hey, we want to offer you this role. It's not the role you interviewed for. It's a completely different role. And we want to offer you that role." And of course, I'm like, sure, absolutely. Because at this point, I need a job, right? I got the job description. I looked it over. Sure. Sounds good. It's in my wheelhouse. I can do this. But again, all those red flags, a complete different job than the one I had been interviewing for, not really sure how this role fits into the organization. Didn't have any discussions about this particular role, right, throughout the interview process. And so I'm in the job. And as I'm in the job, I want to call them pink flags. Pink flag over here, pink flag over here, fuchsia flag over there, right? And so, hey, slow down. Hey, make sure that you form certain relationships. Hey, we don't want to do that yet. Well, hold on. I'm not really sure if we're going to. So what I was hired for was starting to be questioned, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And in the end, the long run, trying to get to the bottom of a particular issue, trying to document some things. I think I, just asked too many questions that maybe they weren't ready for. I'm known for asking questions. Too many questions they weren't ready for. And they felt like, it wasn't a good culture fit. And to be honest, at first I was angry. And then because I was working, I was trying to solve the problems that were glaringly obvious from this organization. And so I was trying to do what they asked. And then I think about a week or so later, when you reached out, I had reached the level of just relief that, because as I was working on these projects, I was realizing even if I bring it to their attention, they're not going to change it. Nothing's going to change. They don't really want to move forward. Yeah. I don't even think they really wanted to hire this role. I don't really think they knew what they wanted with this role. So, so that was my story. And so it's hard because you'd already put out on LinkedIn that you'd gotten this role. You were already trying to be pumped up and excited about it. You're not going to tell anybody that there were red flags along the way, right? You're not going to, that's not what you're going to put on LinkedIn. You're not going to be like, I don't know, should I, this company is kind of weird. No one's going to do that. Yeah. And so I think a little bit of that embarrassment is there, but I didn't do anything wrong. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. So you kind of have to keep reminding yourself about that. And so that's my story. And I think it happens a lot. And I know it happens a couple times because after a couple of posts, which I felt vulnerable, but I wanted to be transparent, I had some people reach out and they were like, I'm 7 months in, and it's clear that this is the wrong role. This is the wrong organization. What am I doing? I'm so glad that someone else voiced this and kind of told me. So, so I'm back on the job market. Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting as you're talking, and I was thinking about sort of what would I do in that situation, because, I think when you're not working, and it's not by choice that you're not just choosing to take a sabbatical or whatnot. You're looking for work, and for most people, we need a job. And so even though there may be red flags, that I think when you're not working, it's so much easier to dismiss those than if you
100%.
were in a job where you're like, you know what, there's something off about this, and I'm not going to pursue this. And I can think about times in the past where I felt like something was a bad fit, and I've withdrawn from an application process at some point.
Right.
And I don't know, I'd like to say I would do that now, but I don't know that I would, because I feel like there's something about, like, I don't feel like, as a person, I don't feel disempowered, but I think as an applicant, I feel some level of being disempowered, because
There's a vulnerability.
I need that. Yes, that's a good word for it, vulnerability. Yeah.
And my husband is very insightful, although he has a job right now, so he can be insightful, right? So I think those that have jobs can look at our situation and be insightful. And I'm like, well,
Right.
that's great. I'm so glad that you can do that. And he said, would you, if you'd had a job, if you'd still been at your previous company that you were laid off for, would you have entertained this role? And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Nope. Would have looked at the job description and been like, no, not for me. It's not. It was more, it was a lot. It was different. It was different. Not that I couldn't do it, but it was not my strengths. It was not aligning my strengths. So that helped. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting, because now that you're not in that role, as you talk about it, like, the sense I get is that you are glad you're not in that role now. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I don't know, like, not glad, but you know what I mean? Like, it's almost like, I don't know if you describe it as a relief, or that, this wasn't for you, and you need a job now, but that bad match was really stressful.
I was driving, I want to say 2 days ago, and I was thinking, the job I miss is like 2 jobs ago, right? I don't miss the one that I don't miss it. I'm relieved that I'm not going to have to deal with the rigmarole that I was going to have to go through to get the things done that they said at the time they wanted done, and to have to deal with the people. I was like, yeah, but at the same time, it was a nice paycheck that hit my account what I missed was the security for my family. It wasn't the job. It wasn't the role. It wasn't the organization, and it wasn't the people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can find a different way to find the money, as opposed to, because I think I would have lost, I don't know, some mental health probably in if I had stayed in that position. So
yeah. And I mean, we're both fortunate in the sense that we've had jobs that we really enjoyed and brought us joy. And I think there are people out there who, just for whatever reason, they're in a job and they feel stuck in a job, and they're going to stay there because for practical reasons, like the salary and the benefits and just all that stuff, health insurance, and, and so I realize, at some level it feels like a position of privilege to say, oh, we should ignore these red flags. But I also feel like there are times when the price you pay for something that's really negative and stressful and bumping up, that's a bad fit for you, can really take its toll emotionally as well. And I know, like, having been in positions where I felt really, what's the word? Not overwhelmed, that's not the right word, but maybe like not respected or something, that certainly takes a big toll. So I think, talking about the culture of the red flags, I think those are important, because once you put yourself in a situation, losing your job is stressful, but it's also really stressful to be in a scene that is not good for you or not healthy for you as well. Yeah. And, as we talk about the job market right now, you and I were talking just before we got on about the news this morning. I saw a New York Times story about unemployment rate in this country, and that it's the highest it's been in 4 years, which is also frustrating for those of us looking for work. And for me, and we talked about this, that it's almost validating in a way, because it's taking so long to find a job. And, it's funny. I thought, oh, I'll just find something. like that. And I did do some interim work right away, but I was like, and like you, where you said there's a lot of people doing your type of work that are out of work.
Yeah.
I come from higher ed. And if you watch the news, higher ed has had so many layoffs and hiring freezes, and there's just a lot of institutions struggling financially right now. So it's the same kind of
Yeah.
thing. It's like, oh, this isn't really the time where I want to be looking for a job in higher ed, but yet, this is what we do, and this is who we are. And I'm sure, the tech industry, I know a number of people from tech who have been laid off. That there are lots of industries where I think it's tough to find a job right now. So one thing you said, talking about in January, how you went out and got your nails done and you didn't make that day about you. And then you took 2 weeks to just be home and be in your space and be with your family and do what you love outside of work are two really good ways of managing that transition out of a job, especially when you didn't choose that transition out of the job. Any other tips you have for people just thinking about managing, I think, the ongoing uncertainty of the current job market that we don't know, you know what I mean? Like if someone said to us, oh, you both will have jobs in 3 months, and that was guaranteed, then, you wouldn't feel stressful. You'll be like, oh, I have to manage these 3 months, but you know that it ends. Whereas who knows when this could end? So how do you recommend people, or any tips for people?
Well, I think it's important to focus on what you are grateful for. I think that's the first thing, and that is hard. You can start every day writing down what you're grateful for, and there are days that I do that, and I'm really good at it, and then there are days that I don't, and that I get frustrated and angry. So I think it's understanding that it's going to be a roller coaster, and to allow yourself to be on that roller coaster, and that it's okay. And then just know, don't stay in the dip. Like if you need to be in the dip, you need to be in the valley, as they say every once in a while. Allow yourself to feel that, because you've got to feel it and process it, and your body has to get it out, and then work hard to get back to the rise. And so my faith helps me. That's one thing for sure. Is that I notice I have worse days when I'm not reading my Bible versus when I am. I think, it's important for people to lean into their faith. And just, this too shall pass. It's a little saying, but it can be humbling sometimes, because it means that the good will pass, and it means that the bad will pass. And so it will. This too shall pass. Everything that's come into my life has eventually passed, right? And so this will be over at some point. And I also think one thing I've been doing is trying to stay focused, right? Like in what I think I'm supposed to be doing. And now I'm going to start opening myself up and just be like, okay, fine. If I'm not supposed to be doing what's set in my brain that I have decided, then God, show me what I'm supposed to be doing over here. If it's not this, which is clearly not working, then I'm going to open myself up to something else. And I think that's important, because as a free agent, maybe they don't need us to do exactly what we thought we were meant to do. And maybe it's a hybrid of that or something. So I'm going to just make sure I'm more open to different types of opportunity. I hope I explained that well. It sounded good coming out, but I'm not really sure if I made any sense.
I think, I think there's a tendency, and correct me if I'm wrong and misunderstanding you, but there's a tendency that we look, when you're under stress, you go for the familiar. And so you and I are looking for jobs very similar to the jobs that we left, whether it's the same industry or the same type of role, because not only that's what we know and it's comfortable, but also that's our skill set. And that's where it seems the most obvious, like, yes, I meet all these criteria and I'm going to jump in and apply for this. But as I also hear you saying, between this job market and then the time that passes as you're looking, that being more open to considering alternative types of roles or settings or something that's not sort of your traditional path, that there could be opportunities we're just not seeing right now as opportunities for us that actually in the end could be just as wonderful. We just don't know it because we haven't been there yet.
Because we haven't opened ourselves up to it, maybe.
Yeah,
and explored that avenue.
exactly.
So I'm going to do that. That's what I'm going to
Good for
do,
you.
and just be open to anything and everything that
Yeah.
people might, think I was a good fit for. So,
Good.
yeah,
Now, with that said, is there anything in particular you have in mind, like as you navigate this path? Well, tell me this, because you and I are in a different field. So I want to make sure I understand. Tell me
sure.
what types of roles you've been looking for, that you're still looking for, and then what you might do moving sideways.
Sure. So, senior manager or director of learning and
Mhm.
development or training. So, I'm
Okay.
really good at building new programs, scaling them, or coming into an existing program that maybe needs s- I don't want to say fixing, some elevating, right? Some changing. Love LMSs. I started as a facilitator, then I became a trainer, right? Facilitating someone else's curriculum. Then I
Mhm.
became a trainer, started putting my own stamp on things, then an
Mm,
instructional designer, then a learning manager, and then on up. And so I
okay.
love developing people
Yeah.
and all of that. But I've worked really closely with operations my entire
Mm,
career, and I've worked really close with onboarding. So when it comes to onboarding employees, maybe I want to onboard clients, maybe I want to
mhm.
onboard customers, right? Because I think a lot of things can translate that way. And then I
Mhm.
work very closely with HR as
Yeah.
well. And so maybe I just want to start, something at the bottom of HR, and because I
Mhm.
like people, which is,
Yeah.
my husband thinks is weird, but I like people. And so I'm trying to be open to different spaces, and different opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah. Which makes sense. And it's interesting. Um, I've talked about this. I don't know if I think I mentioned this to you, that this fall I published a book on sort of navigating the loss of a job. And one of the chapters, I actually talk about the idea of doing a personal SWOT analysis. And, people
Yes.
always think of SWOT analysis as something you would do, as a business, as you're looking for something, that you look at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. But as I've considered roles like outside of higher ed, what I've actually done is like taken that description and taken my resume and put them in AI and said, can you do a SWOT
Oh,
analysis for me on this role and compare it to my resume and tell me? And so it's fascinating because that's the same thing. Like, that looks different for a role that we've spent a long, long time doing versus a role that's different. But it was also illuminating to me when it said, well, this weakness is you don't have this experience, but this part of your resume is something that's similar to it that could relate to it. So it bridges that gap in a way I hadn't thought
that's really
about.
cool. I need to write
Um,
that down because I'm going to do that today.
Do
So
it.
that's
I
awesome.
found, like, not to toot my own horn here, but I felt like it was really cool when I figured that out. Um, and it's helpful because I think it gets back to, maybe as people, we can have some rigidity as we look at, oh, this is what I do, or this is my skill set. But by taking it out of your hands, I think it can give you some perspectives that you might not think of, because we don't give ourselves enough credit for
Right.
maybe this part of our experience or something. So yeah, I will email you when we're done talking. I will email you the prompt that I use.
Oh, please do.
It's not a
That'd be
magical prompt, but it's just easy, the what
okay.
I do. And I found that
Okay.
really helpful. But I think that goes back to, like, as you branch out, I think we need to give ourselves credit for, we do have relevant experience that applies to other types of roles, even though we haven't been in that role. And, hopefully hiring managers will recognize that as well, that sometimes you might feel like you play it safe by saying, oh, this person has XYZ and they look like exactly like this. But there are other times where people bring some interesting things that actually can be additive to a culture or to an
Yeah.
area. Do you know what I
What?
mean?
No,
It's
100%.
different from everyone else because of the
Right.
background.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, well, I'm excited as you move forward in your journey to keep looking at you on LinkedIn and see, like, where this goes. Do you have anything that we haven't touched on that you want to share with people? While I've got you on camera.
Right. Just, you're not alone.
Yeah.
No one's alone in this job search. And I think I know we talked last week earlier. Someone was talking about, oh, this seems really hard. And I think somebody said something about childbirth, right? Like this feels like birthing a child. I was like, no. No. I knew when the baby was going to come out. And I knew if I couldn't get the baby out, the doctor would get the baby out. I knew there was an end point to it. And I think that job searching is the hardest thing that you do, quite honestly, because you don't know when it's going to end.
Mm-hmm.
And it needs a sort of resilience that I don't believe everyone possesses.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they do at the end of it, because I think it builds resilience.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, I just want people to know they're not alone, and that you're building a resilience that will help you later, and to just get up and keep doing it every day. Mm-hmm. And just, and meet people, go out and get out, meet people, talk to people. I mean, I talked to a guy the other day at the post office for eBay, and I found him on LinkedIn, and I'm like, well, maybe that'll turn into something. Just, you're not by yourself. You're not alone. And then if anyone wants to reach out to me on LinkedIn and just talk about it, I'm also here. Again, I like people.
Thank you. That would be awesome. Yeah. So, and I'll have, when I put the newsletter, I'll have your name, and I'll throw in your LinkedIn link.
Yeah, my handle. My LinkedIn handle or whatever it is. Yeah.
I didn't know if they call it a handle on LinkedIn.
I don't know either. I'm not on the up and up, but handle.
We'll call it a handle.
Yeah. So
So I think, again, not being alone in this is really helpful. So thank you for that offer. And that's how you and I met, is posting our stories on LinkedIn. So so people are in good company, and we all hope that we will. It's like a club none of us wants to be in. So we will all be out of the club someday. But in the meantime, I feel like I've learned a lot about myself, about lots of things in this process. And that's not a bad thing. And I think that goes back to the idea of like being positive. And you started off talking about gratitude. And even though it's been a tough season, I do have multiple points of gratitude. And so that's something I do appreciate. Yeah.
That's good.
So,
me too. So
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much. I am thankful that you were a part of this.
And I am thankful that you reached out and allowed me to. So I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, my Christmas twin.
I know.
So happy holidays, everyone.
Yep.
And thank you so much, Jennifer.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I wish everybody happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, happy everything. And take a minute for yourself and count your blessings, and know that this too shall pass.
Yes, it will. It will pass. And I look forward to a wonderful 2026.
Me too.
Great. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.